So I wanted to come on and quickly talk about how to be successful in your spiritual work. So I talk to a lot of people at different levels in their spiritual journey. New beginners, people who are intermediate, people who are more advanced. So I wanted to give y'all just a couple tips on how to be more successful in your work. I'm going to also give some tips for people who do work for other people or people who want to eventually evolve into being able to have a spiritual business. Now, the first recommendation that I'm going to give to you guys is before doing spiritual work, it's really important to do divination. Because sometimes what you think the problem is and what you think the solution is not necessarily those things, okay? Sometimes the manifestation of a problem is not necessarily the root. I'll give you an example. So let's just say there's something going on with your finances. You notice that money's not coming in, or if it is, it's leaving right out. And so you think, well, I just need to do a whole bunch of more money work, okay? And sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes there's other factors that are influencing your finances. Like it could be that you have not been cleansing properly. Okay, that's one example. And so you're blocked. Your roads have gotten blocked. You're energetically blocked, which ultimately translates into your roads being blocked. And you may need to address that and then go back and do your prosperity, your money work. Okay, so that's just one example. So doing divination is important to get to the root, the cause of the problem, so that you can address it at the root, and so that you won't be doing so much remediation work that's not really addressing the problem. The next thing that I'm going to say is take the time to learn your craft, whether that means, lectures, taking classes, reading books. The more you know, the better you'll be at what you do. But the only way that you're going to develop spiritual power is to actually do the work, okay? It's like a muscle. Your spiritual power, whether it's, your power to manifest with your magic, or whether it's using your spiritual gifts like divination or your psychic abilities, your intuition, it's only going to get stronger if you use it. Now, some people go and they initiate, and I'm not against initiations. Let me just say that. If that's what you're intended to do in this lifetime, understand that initiation only makes a connection to whatever deity and or spirit, but it does not automatically bestow you with power. I heard one elder say for the first 7 years of being initiated, your ashe, which in Ifa means power, is cooking in a pot. So you really don't have that much power within yourself, okay? When you initiate, you have to develop that power. It helps to connect you with spirit, connect you with the other elders and people in the house, connect you with the deity. But it does not automatically bestow you with power. That's something that you have to develop on your own through trial and error, okay? How you doing? So the next suggestion that I have is take your time. Don't rush the work. Don't rush to do work, okay? When you do work, take your time and do it right, because the energy that you put into it is going to transcend and translate into the work that you do, okay? The next thing that I'm going to suggest that you do is have a mentor, a teacher, someone that you can go to and get more information, get insight. Someone, if you get into a situation where it's a little bit over your head or you don't know what to do, can help you, okay? I'm telling y'all, it's good to have somebody like that, okay? I've been doing spiritual work for clients for 11 years, and I have been doing spiritual work in general for about 23 years, okay? I started at 24 with my first awakening, and I'll be 47 on my birthday, December 1st. So I have been on this journey a long time, and I've learned a lot of lessons, some of them difficult, some of them painful, okay? So this is why I'm giving you the benefit of my experience, so you don't have to make the same mistakes, okay? The next thing that I'm going to suggest and recommend is the two most important types of spiritual work that you can do is cleansing and protection. I know it doesn't sound trendy. It's not the faddish, fun thing to do. But if you're not properly protected, and believe me, when you start dealing with spiritual things, sometimes you attract energies towards you that do not have your best intentions, okay? Sometimes when you're dealing with spiritual things, you'll be under attack, especially if you are doing work for other people. You're going to be taking on a little bit of what they're dealing with. You want to cleanse yourself on a regular basis. You want to protect yourself on a regular basis. The more intense work that you're doing, the more work like uncrossing, protection, work for other people, the more you want to cleanse and protect yourself, okay? So important. It will prevent so many negative experiences in your life. It will prevent so many psychic attacks. You will be greatly appreciative if you do follow that little bit of advice. If you don't take anything else away from what I'm saying, do those things. And I'm going to say this too. Energy wanes, like the moon waxes and wanes. Energy wanes, just like your car. I'm sitting in the car. When you put gas in the car and you drive it, it runs out. So the protection work, any work that you do, you have to be consistent. That's my next tip. Consistency and dedication. You have to be consistent. If you are not consistent in the spiritual work that you're doing, you'll realize that it will dissipate. The protection will dissipate. Your money, if you're doing money work and you stop, and a lot of people do this. They'll have a problem, they'll do a spell, they'll do a ritual, things will get better, and then they stop. And then they wonder why things revert. Okay, just like your perm. If you don't keep applying the perm to your hair, what happens? New growth comes and it reverts back. So you have to be consistent if you want to maintain the conditions that you get when you do your work, okay? How consistent you need to be depends upon your situation, okay? But I'm going to say, especially for protection work, on a low level, you should be doing something once a month. That's just on a low level. But I would recommend every 2 weeks doing some form of protection. Every 2 weeks doing some type of cleansing. Now, if you're doing spell work for other people, you want to level that up. You want to do more protection, more cleansing, okay? Consistency is very important. Now, if you are thinking about doing work for other people, the first thing that I'm going to suggest you do is don't rush into doing this for other people. Make sure that you are skilled and know what you know. Make sure you're solid in your spiritual protection before you start taking on clients, okay? Because that's one of the things I see people do too soon, is start taking on clients too soon. The next thing that I'm going to suggest that you do is, before you start setting prices and putting out your service list, you want to really sit down and think about the cost, okay? And when I say cost, I'm not just talking about the financial cost, because I can remember myself being a bit naive in the beginning and thinking to myself, going into a business like, well, if I provide a lot of services, I won't have a lot of overhead. I won't have to pay a lot of expenses for products and things like that. You know, making candles and all that type of stuff comes with a certain amount of overhead that you have to invest in your materials. What I didn't account for, I'm thinking, if I just do spell work and I just do rituals, I'll just make money. No, you have to pay for that. Outside of the materials that you use, and let me just say this, quality products cost, okay? You have to pay for shipping, which has gone up. If you're driving to get them, you have to pay gas. You have to include all of that in your fee structure. But what most people don't account for, and what I didn't account for until I got on this path, was the energetic cost, okay? Doing certain types of work will take a lot of energy out of you on a low level, which means you may feel drained. You may feel tired for a while after doing it. And when I say a while, I don't mean a couple hours, okay? I mean days, weeks. Something too serious, maybe even months, okay? But also, if you're going to be doing things like protecting people, uncrossing people, banishings, people who have serious afflictions, healing work, sometimes you will have a serious spiritual attack. I broke my ankle doing some spiritual work, okay? And ended up in the hospital having to get surgery, okay? Think about the pain and the time that I had to take off from doing work while I healed, okay? I have been under some serious spiritual attacks, and I have to periodically take breaks to work on myself, to rebuild myself. Okay. A lot of people would not be able to walk the path that I walk spiritually and the type of work that I do because they would not want to deal with the attacks and the consequences of doing work for clients. And so when you come up with your fee schedule, I know some people, I've even heard a person say, nobody should be charging too much for spiritual work because all they doing is buying a couple little cheap candles and a couple little cheap herbs. But baby, first of all, I don't buy cheap nothing. Let me start there. But baby, the cost that it takes, the pain, the suffering, the blood, the tears that you go through on this path when you are really servicing your community and you are really making an impact in clients' lives, that shit comes back on you. Even if you are well protected, even if you are cleansing, there are consequences, baby. Believe me. And you need to account for that because there may be times when you have to take breaks. There may be times when you have to go to the hospital. Okay, I've had to. Like I said, I'm telling you from experience. I've been doing client work for 11 years and I've been through a lot of shit. But I pick myself back up and I come back. My clients get good results, but I pay for that. I pay for that in blood, sweat, and tears. You have to include that in your price. Okay? You have to include that or you're going to find yourself in a deficit. And if you are not charging people properly, you will be in a spiritual detriment. And do not go out here petitioning deities and spirits and not giving them what they request. That's another part of the work because I work with different orishas and different spirits. Just like when you go to the store and you buy a product or you go somewhere and you get a service, you have to pay them. Well, these spirits, these deities, they have to be paid. So if you hire me to work with Oya for you, I have to give Oya offerings. And oftentimes things after the ritual. So in the beginning, she just may want some eggplants, but I may have to give her offerings and go to the graveyard and do all these different things to continue to manifest. Also, you have to have strong relationships with your deities and your spirits, which means that on a regular basis, you're acknowledging them. On a regular basis, you're feeding them. If you're not doing this, you're not going to have a strong connection with these deities and they're not going to move for you. They're not going to do the work for you or for your clients that you want them to do because you are not properly giving them energy. So I just wanted to take out this time because I get a lot of people who come to me and they want to know why the work that they're doing isn't working. They want to know how to better what they're doing. These are just some tips and suggestions. Starting next year, I am going to start doing classes and teaching again. I'm thinking about doing some in-person classes. So if you don't mind, at the bottom of this video, when you watch it, tell me what in-person classes you would want me to teach. I want to get some feedback from people so I can provide the type of classes that people want. Not what I think you want, but what you actually want. Okay? All right, y'all. I love y'all. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Peace.